Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's team, Teachability of Humans. Say whether we fit teach human beings, and human beings ever learn, that kind of thing. So we have to follow this very discussion, bomber to bomber, if you really want to grasp what the theme is all about. Because if you look at human beings as a unique being, what is the difference between we and animals? Is it our rationality? Is it our ability to grow? Because Tony, in his previous presentations, have always talked about man in becoming. Not what we had yesterday, but you reflect back on your past, use it to modify your present, and then in view of tomorrow. Whether human beings are capable of orienting themselves and organizing their lives better, that is whether you can teach them. Say you will teach human beings to become better, that kind of thing. I beg, I'm giving the word to our CEO, Father Tony Audio, to take us along with this Martian anthropology on the human mind, the consciousness, how to teach persons to become better. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow, thank you very much. That is quite an expansive introduction. Well, the same, thank you, and welcome back again to the Martian anthropology, which is the theme for our Sankofa Political Studies 2022/2023. So, in the last edition, we spoke about the perfectibility of the human person. And this time around, we are going to be talking about the teachability of the humans or the human person. And we're going to be looking at the part 1 of it. All we are trying to do is to bring our consciousness towards how the ancient Egyptians saw themselves. So let us not lose track of that. That is what we are trying to bring forward, bring to our mind, bring it to our consciousness. How our forefathers, how our brothers and sisters, aunties and mommies, our ancient people, our ancestors, the way they conceive themselves, their anthropology, that is, the way they saw themselves and their society. So in this aspect of the teachability of the human person, I'm going to be dealing or leading you in the area of the moral wisdom, the wise person and the fool, and the Geru Maa. Teachability. Teachability is the third pillar of the Martian conception of the human person. It ascertains that the human person is teachable. That's, as humans, we have the capacity to learn. We are teachable. What is the idea? That the Sabbath or book of instructions are dedicated to the proposition that the human person is malleable, teachable, and capable of moral cultivation, which leads to his or her higher self. Moral cultivation. You see the word cultivation, they use an agricultural word there, to cultivate, to tend, to, in fact, even in the concept of culture, there's what cultivation is also part of it. So it grows. You work on it, you tend it, you apply manure, you do some things to do what? To make the plant grow. You don't just put a seed on the ground and let it be. Capable of moral cultivation. So as a human person, there are elements, there are structures that you put in place to help you grow and develop in your morality, in the way you act upon yourself and act with the people, act with others. So the ancient Egyptians were evidently convinced that a good life could be taught. Good life could be taught. Righteousness could be taught. To do what is right, to do what is good, it is teachable. So it is not something that falls from heaven and it dumps on you. You just dump it on you and say, take. No, no, no. It's something that you learn, you become, as the moderator rightly said earlier. So there is a serene belief that the humans, that is, we're talking about the ancient Egyptians. So in their conception, in their concepts, in their living together, in their society, in their environment, there's this serene belief that humans have the capacity to transform and to progressively become perfect. This is why Frankfurt believes that the Sabbats are rarely used in religious contexts where they belong. Instead, they are usually interpreted as secular guides of conduct. So these things that we're talking about, morality and all that, in our day-to-day experiences, or even in today's reality, there is this aspect of relegating morality to church, to religion, to those practicing one religion or the other. Oh, your morality is kind of linked to your religion. So later we're going to be looking at the secular and the sacred. So there's the sacred and there's the secular. So morality is it tends towards the sacred without the secular. But here it's saying that though it is towards the sacred, but in their own use, it is seen as something secular, because it is something that each one does. You don't have to go to church or go to mosques before you become morally a good person. It's something that you learn. So you're in your office, you're in your marketplace, you practice good behaviors, you practice goodness and all of that. So in the secular, in living life ordinarily, you practice goodness, you practice morality. So it's not just something that is relegated to when you go to church, or something that is like an idea or idyllic. So yeah, we do this, we do that, but not seen in the day-to-day life of the person. So Frankfurt is saying that there's this belief, this serene belief that humans have the capacity to transform and to progressively become perfect. So that is how, as a people, they saw themselves. That does not mean that people don't err or people don't do wrong and all that, but this is the mindset of the people. Moral wisdom. So according to Karenga, the author of the book that we're using, the end point of learning is to attain wisdom. So wisdom in ancient Egypt is moral wisdom in service of social and human good. Moral wisdom is in the service of social and human good, like what I was explaining before, that it is, so if you're talking about morality and all that, talking about the wisdom, and it's not just something that you relegate to one aspect, or that is the sacred, but something that goes, that permeates in all our doings. So moral wisdom is in the service of social and human good. The way I look at myself, the way I work on myself to become morally good to myself, and also the way I translate that to the people around me. Human good, goodness of humanity. So also is the wisdom of my heart in its spiritual, ethical, and social sense. So we'll see whereby we are saying that the goodness that we are talking about, that wisdom brings, is what also Maat is also proposing. So they are both together. So wisdom requires what? Listening, learning, and doing what is right. So the hearing son succeeds. That is what Tahotep said. The hearing son succeeds, and his deeds are distinguished, but failure will follow him who hears not. So we are looking at wisdom that comes from where? First of all, listening, learning, and doing what is right. You listen. From there, you act upon that listening. That is working on yourself. You learn and you do what is right to yourself and to others. Hence, in defining the moral and social significance of wisdom, Frankfurt holds that it is morally compelling for parents to teach the moral and social lessons to their children, which they themselves were taught, so that the children may walk in the ways of the ancestors. That is the way of Ma'at. So wisdom is actually transferable. Wisdom is like a tradition. So when it says something is tradition, it means that it passed from one generation to another. So saying that parents have this, they are compelled to do what? To teach their sons and daughters so that they can walk in the path of their ancestors. That is the way. The path of their ancestors is the way of Ma'at. And know that when we talk about ancestors in the African setting, we're not just meaning those who have died, those who are gone, long gone before us. No, they are people whom in the Christian climb we can call saints, the Sufis. I mean, people who have done in Islam, people who have done so much good, people who have transcended, that have done, if we can put it in the African, African traditional religion, Ma'at, that is those who do Ma'at, those who have done Ma'at, those who have practiced Ma'at, those who have flourished in wisdom, in moral wisdom, those who have actually gone beyond the material. So if Ma'at is made to flourish, your children will live according to Ta-Hotep. So flourish, that is the component of Ma'at. If it flourishes in me, in my children, if it flourishes in those around us, if it flourishes in what we do as humans, we would live. So we see in the above case that Ma'at is equated with life and how doing Ma'at sustains a person. Teaching and learning are acts of moral cultivation to self and to the community, as explained earlier. So knowledge is essentially a moral concept involving knowledge of right and wrong and knowledge of the self. The wise and the fool. The wise person and the fool. So this image that is here is not a depiction of a wise person and a fool, but I just kept it there. So who is the wise person and the fool? In the development of moral wisdom in Sabbatic literature, there is an essential difference between the wise person, Ri, and the fool, words. I don't actually know how to pronounce this. In Ta-Hotep, this decision is made around the concept of hearing, truth, success, and life. So as we said earlier, that hearing, learning, and acting. So here also, hearing is reappearing, truth, success, and life. So now, examples of the wise and the fool. Now, this is for the wise. If good deeds are done by one who leads, he will be well established forever, and all his wisdom will endure for eternity. The wise nourishes his bar with that which endures, so that it is well with him on earth. The wise is known by his wisdom, a noble person by his good deeds. His heart is in harmony with his tongue. His lips are accurate when he speaks. His eyes sees rightly. His ears are pleased to hear what is useful for his son. He does Ma'at and is free from falsehood. So here, Ta-Hotep links being wise with a leader. So if good deeds are done by the one who leads. So this can also be seen with anybody. It does not mean that, okay, because Ta-Hotep have equated it or used being a leader to explain what being a wise person is does not mean that it does not apply to anybody or everyone. Here is the moral portrait of the one whose wisdom is morally grounded, who sets good example through doing good deeds, and is always concerned about the legacy he leaves his descendants. As we go back to what we said earlier, the parents should teach their children so that they can live in the legacy of their ancestors. That the person who does good deeds is also concerned about the legacy he leaves to his descendants. So it does not just do anyhow, because he knows that I want to leave a legacy that is worthwhile, a legacy that is worthy of emulation, something that is of model. We shall see as we move on when they talk about modeling and all that, to model, to be a model to others. However, the fool is defined by his not hearing, ignorance, failure, and blame. Thus, Tauktes says, now the fool who does not listen, he can do nothing at all. He sees knowledge in ignorance, and that which is beneficial as that which is harmful. He does everything which is hateful, so that people blame him every day. He lives on that by which one dies. His food is the distortion of speech. His character, in this respect, is known to the official as a living death each day. People overlook his deeds because of the many problems facing him every day. It is clear the difference between the wise person and the fool, because it's actually the opposite of the wise person. So what marks the fool is a living death each day. So his action is actually leading him into death, not just leading him, making him to inhibit death. So it doesn't mean that, oh, he dies like he's no more breathing, but his actions are actually already propelling him towards death. One who sees knowledge in ignorance, and that which is beneficial as that which is harmful. Above all, he does not hear or listen, and thus cannot gain moral knowledge and then correct himself. So because he is blinded by ignorance, he can't even claim, he can't even see knowledge. He can't find that light of knowledge or of moral knowledge to even correct himself. So apart from correcting himself, even though people come and tell him, the person will still be bent on his or her idea. Why? Because the light of reason, the light of wisdom has been shone out, lives in darkness and all of that. Here again, knowledge is life, ignorance is death. Wisdom then is knowing the good and the right, seeing the way of Ma'at as the way of life and following it. So wisdom is then knowing the good and the right, knowing that which is. So wisdom enables you to know, to be knowledgeable, Wisdom is receptive to hearing and learning. So I heard, since what I have heard, I know to be beneficial to me. I learn it, because we are talking about the teachability of the human person. I learn it, I cultivate it. The book of Angst She Hong Ji notes that the category rare, which is both knowledge and wisdom as possessed by the human person, is primarily practical reason and prudence. This is the knowledge of life and how to prosper and flourish in it as a social being. So we are looking at knowledge as practical reason and prudence. So it's something that is not something conceptual, but something that is pragmatic, something that you do, that helps you to act, that helps you to perform, and not just performing, but performing in prudence. I think prudence would would translate into one of the pillars of Ma'at, that is balance, to be prudent, to be balanced. So learning to be a person of character or good person is a primary concern of Ma'atian ethics. The good person is not contrasted to the wise or sensitive or self-mastered, but rather is one who is assumed to contain these virtues. Thus, the moral category of neferu, that is goodness, virtue, is not reducible to any quality or virtue, but is inclusive of many virtues. Moreover, it is not a private possession, but a shared human experience in relationships and moral action. Learning Ma'at requires an openness of self to both instruction and change, and involve a twofold process. So learning Ma'at is an openness. One opens his or herself. One gives that availability, that is the word, openness to instruction, and let that instruction work into you, transform you, change you, and makes you become a good person, a person of virtue. And it's saying that it has twofold process, hearing and acting. I hear and I act. Actually, the word SDM encompasses both hearing and acting. For in ancient Egypt or ancient Egyptian, it means listening, hearing, and obeying. Listening, hearing, and obeying. Responding in action. That is where the pragmatic aspect comes in. Thus, the first requirement is one of attentiveness. The second of grasping both cognitively and affectively. And the third is to put into practice that which is taught. So Taubtep says, the hearer is the one who listens to what is said, and the one who loves to hear is the one who does what is said. In fact, he who hears is the beloved of God. He who hears is the beloved of God. The Geruma, the purpose of learning. So in ancient Egypt, teaching and learning have two fundamental purposes: to cultivate the Ma'atian person and to create and sustain the Ma'atian community, individual, communitarian. When we talk about the African anthropology, we also talk about the person and the community. So I am because we are, and we are because I am. If I am not, the community cannot also be. So it is in this respect we're talking about, like, to cultivate the Ma'atian person and to create and sustain the Ma'atian community. The Ma'atian person and the Ma'atian persons create the Ma'atian community. Now, the process is a dialectical one in which a good society cultivates the good person, and the good person creates and sustains the good society. So this is the purpose of learning. In this regard, the Ma'atian anthropology posits a paradigmatic person known as the Guru Maha. Who is the Guru Maha? Meaning of Guru Maha. According to Morens, the Guru Maha means the truly self-mastered, whose whole character is infused with Ma'at. The word is composed of Jeru, which means silent, self-mastered, self-controlled, and of Ma, truly righteous. And thus means the truly self-mastered or the righteous self-mastered person. However, let us not mistake when we mean silence with submission. As Bodge said, the silence has nothing to do with submission, as Bodge erroneously translates it to be. The man who is truly resigned to good guiding hand, he equates it with submission as the cardinal virtue in Islam. That is, looking at his submission in the Islamic religion, it says that the silent person is in that direction. That is one who submits, who resigned to God's guiding hand and all that. However, it is not submission which is a cardinal virtue here, but self-mastery in thought and practice. So what the author is saying is not talking about submission in the area of, it's not talking about, the silence is talking about, it's not in the area of submission, but in self-mastery. Self-mastery, you're working on yourself. You're not talkative, you're not just blabbing and all that, but your silence is because you are actually looking inward. You're looking inward. So Frankfurt gave a more correct, what we call a correct, according to the author, a more correct meaning from the simple roots silence. It means it has the concept of self-control, self-discipline, and self-mastery. We are here, we are, he says, that is Frankfurt, apt to misunderstand the idea of silence, the silent man, for it does not exhaust submissiveness, meekness, or any kind of other worldliness. The silent man is preeminently the successful man. However, when Frankfurt speaks about success, when he talks about success, he's not talking about the go-getter. The one who wants to be, let's say, successful in business. I want to be successful. I want to do this. I want to be successful in it. No, he's talking about righteousness. It is not material thing that the Geruma primarily pursues, but righteousness. And it is because of this that he prosper. So we can even bring in the quotes in the Christendom, the Bible, that seek first the kingdom of God and every other thing will be added. We can see it in line, in this line also. For Frankfurt, the concept of success is attunement with cosmic, natural, and social order. To be attuned in these three pillars, in the cosmic, natural, and the social order. The Geruma is posed as the ideal person throughout the evolution of Manhattan ethics, but he or she gets its more definitive expression in the book of Amenomope, a book of Sebet, written in the 20th dynasty. In defining the Geruma, Amenomope distinguishes himself between the person from the hot-tempered or restrained person, a distinction which is apparent in the Old Kingdom from the book of Ptahhotep onward. Amenomope says that the self-mastered person is strong, productive, and durable. The person is shade and fruit to those around, and those the person end is in the garden, where he or she belongs. But the unrestrained person is unproductive and comes to a negative end. The person is not the hot-tempered person we're talking about, or the unrestrained person. So he distinguishes from the hot-tempered or restrained person and talks about somebody who is a fruit and a shade to those who are around him or her. So Bruna Trott discusses the Geruma in the context of her discussion of the virtue of silence. Thus, her stress is on the terms, meaning of the silent one. But even in this context, the central meaning of self-control or better self-mastery is clear. Examples she poses to discuss the virtue of gr or silence are humbleness before God, the avoidance of rash words which injury, and propriety in the presence of others. All of these suggest a measure of self-mastery in both thought and practice, and therefore speak to the central meaning of Geruma. As the text revealed, the Geruma, as a paradigmatic or exemplary person, is above all a bearer of Ma'at and an opponent of Isfet. She, as Kunampu says, destroys Isfet and brings Ma'at into being. Talking about the central meaning of Geruma, that suggests mastery, self-mastery. And when we're talking about self-mastery, it talks about one that is learning, one that is inculcating the possibility, the capacity of being able to be teachable. So it talks also about Isfet here. Ma'at that destroys Isfet. Isfet is the opposite of Ma'at. Ma'at is the goodness and everything. Isfet is like what we can call evil, and all that pertains to that negativity. So one who practices Ma'at, one who is teachable, one who listens, one who learns, becomes Ma'atic, if I can use the word. And as a result, every aspect of Isfet that is in that person, the emergence of Ma'at in the person destroys that. And these are the people, this is what forms a Ma'atic community. Because when the person has worked on his or herself, the other one has done the same thing, the next one has done the same thing, everyone has done the same thing, then you have a Ma'atic community, a community that is ruled, governed by Ma'at. And the end, it is not what is outside, it is actually what happens within, because it all begins from the inside. So in our conclusion, it is good to note that the Geruma is not a recluse, but is always socially engaged, bringing Ma'at to the forefront and demonstrating its worth, its effectiveness, its greatness, as Taut Hotep and Kunampu teach. By his very definition, the exemplary person is a model for all, as I said earlier. It's a model for all. So the person who has imbibed Ma'at, cultivated Ma'at in his or herself, is a model for all. So these are the people that we can actually call ancestors when they pass on to the other part, to the other world. So thus, Kunampu says of a Ma'atan leader, you should be a model for all people. And King Isesi tells Tahotep concerning teaching Tahotep's son, instruct him then in the sayings of the past, that he may become a model for the children of the great. This stress on teaching and the implied modeling and resultant transformation stands at the heart of the debate and the moral anthropology they present. Teachability and transformability are twin conceptual pillars in Ma'atian moral anthropology. And thus, the conception of both the Geru Ma and the ordinary person reflects this understanding. So what we have been able to come to understand with the teachability is the fact that the human person is teachable. But at the end, the person who is teachable has to first of all hear, listen, act. So at the end, there's the possibility for the human person to be teachable. There's the possibility for the human person to become perfect, striving to become perfect. There's the possibility for the human person to cultivate Ma'at. But it is the human person, it is the person that have to give that opportunity, that has to open his or herself to achieve, to acquire this goodness that is being taught. So it is the person that it's not just, okay, oh, I going to do this, or I cultivate math and all of that. There's a progression. So you cultivate math, you listen, you cultivate math, you become math, you act math, and what follows, you become a model for others. And at the end, you become an ancestor. You become a righteous person, a flag bearer of math. So my friends, Ket Nebet Neferet, this is the end of this aspect of the teachability of the human person.
Oh boy, this one makes sense. So, my people, when I don't hear according to what we just had now, Isfet, say in the layman's term, say Isfet na jaga jaga, maga maga wuru wuru, nyama nyama, everything we know they work. When you talk of things that are not going in accordance with the law of nature, the way it should be. Math, on the other hand, has to do with orderliness, cleanliness, righteousness, anything that makes the society to work. That is to say that when the human person goes according to Mahat, that is according to the teaching, which comes from hearing, as we don't hear them. So when you follow, when you hearken to this kind of teaching, you become a better person, because the reason why we are here is for us to create a Mahatic society, a society where it makes sense, society where, bam, in fact, take this word tonight, society where they connect Africa. In order to connect, in order to have a Mahatic society, this human being that you see before you has to be taught, has to be groomed into becoming a better person, into becoming a Mahatic person. Ladies and gentlemen, start preparing your questions, because if human beings can be taught, why is it that all the things we've done the year for many years, we are still where we are? Does it mean that we've not had enough? Does it mean that they're not telling us what we should hear, or the things that we've been hearing all these while are contrary to what could bring a better society? This should be some of the things disturbing you, picking you in your mind. I'm going to give you all 2-3 minutes to reflect personally and then throw your questions. If you cannot ask directly, please, there is the chat button there. Click on it, put in your question, and we'll verbalize it and bring it to the presenter for more clarification. Ladies and gentlemen, remain connected. In a few seconds, we are going to get back with the answers to your questions. We await your questions.
So if there are no questions, I think we can move on.
Okay. Without much ado, I think we can switch gear. Now we know where we are. Though something is still disturbing my mind, I want to ask, does it mean where we are today, does it mean that we've not heard the right message that could make us to build a better society, or that we've had it and that we have not been able to put it into practice? I don't know, because there is a great difference between hearing and the doing. I don't know whether the Nigerian society as we see it today is the way it is because we've not been told the truth about where we are, or that we've been told, but we don't want to listen, and we really love being in this kind of messy situation where we find ourselves. Phrased this way, I hope the presenter, CEO Tony Audio, will give me a kind of quick response to this.
Yes, as earlier said, that it's not just about hearing, it's about doing. And it's not just about hearing or doing, it's about one being open to learn, one being open to learn and to do what is right. I think that is what is more important. If anybody wants to do what is right, knows what is right, first of all, you have to know it. It's knowledge-based, as we said earlier in the other presentations. The African, the Martin anthropology, the African religion is a knowledge based on a reality. So you know, knowledge takes you, moves you to that level of purification, of refinement. So when you are refined, when you are knowledgeable, knowledge takes you to refinement. Material things will no longer be your preoccupation, or things that will, material things, I mean, houses, cars, what I want to possess, things like that. But what you are concerned about is your inner joy, your happiness, and how the community, how you influence the community, how the community becomes better through your influence. These informations, I would say we are aware of it. We know. We know. We go to churches, we go to mosques, we go to different places of religious upbringing, if I may say. And this information that we are sharing here, even though it's not in this manner, is still being shared in those areas. So I would say that we are where we are today because of the hard-hearted people that we have become. Because it's not just about leadership, it's also about the people, the followers, and things like that. So it's the message is there, the message is out there. It's just that we are not yet ready to imbibe, to cultivate it, to make it our own, to see it as something that we have to do personally, something that we have to do on our own to be able to arrive at that point. As I said earlier, it is the person. If I cultivate Mahat, you cultivate Mahat, the next person cultivates Mahat, what happens? We have a community that is what? Ruled, governed by Mahatic principles. And if we are ruled by Mahatic principles, it means that we will not be asking these questions today. Now, we'll be saying that, okay, yes, we are okay because I want your good, you want my good, I want the other person's good. I will not be scared. We will not be talking about insecurity. We will not be talking about thieves coming around. We will not be saying that, oh, that person is doing that thing because I'm not from that person's cultural community. And all of these things that is actually crippling us. We'll not be talking about all of this. Now, we are talking about Mass today, but that same word in a different manner is being said in the churches, is being said in mosques, is being said in different religious settings, but in a different way. The thing is reception. Do we receive it? Do we take it? Do we accept it? That is what I would say in this regard.
Okay, thank you so much for this powerful and straight to the point answer, because it hits exactly what said in a layman's term, what Michael Jackson was saying: heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and for the entire human race. And how do we come about healing the world? The answer is already given through your presentation: by listening to the reality, trying to understand it, practicing the core of Mahat, to transform not just oneself, but also the external world in which we find ourselves. And ladies and gentlemen, we've almost exhausted 1 hour, and I think we are more than satisfied with this powerful, well-packaged information that we've received today on the teachability of the human person. If there are no further questions, I will give another time to the CEO if there are announcements to be made, and then we'll be wrapping it up.
Yeah, no much thing to say. It's just to thank those who have been participating and being consistent in the participation. And not just consistent, I know of people who are actually trying to make this reality their own reality today, that are participating in these lessons. So it's something, it's an honor to have such people around who are listening, and they're not just hearing, they are acting upon what they hear. So it's a satisfaction. It should be a satisfaction for us also who are organizing these and all that. So it's to continue on that. It's to continue on that. Know who your ancestors were, what your ancestors, the mindset of your. This is what we are doing now. We are trying to understand the mindset of our ancestors, the people we call ancestors, not just because they are dead, no, because they were models of martic living. Hence, they are ancestors. So we are trying to understand their mindset. And also, like as Pauter said to his son, that if he does what is right, and if he follows this path, he's going to be also a model to others. So this is what I will leave us with. And while the next lesson will continue with the teachability, the other three parts that remains, and we'll move forward. So thank you very much for your active participation. And we move on. We move forward, and we don't just listen, but we pray that we may hold firm in imbibing these values, these virtues, this principle, because it's not easy. It's not easy. Like the moderator was saying, how do you, in this situation that we are in today, how do you bring this in? How do you translate all what we are saying now into what is happening today? Is it that we didn't hear? No, we've heard. So if you now practice maths in this our reality, you are a math person. You are seen as the one who is sick. So it becomes very difficult for you. But all the same, since it is good, it leads us to goodness. Let us keep pursuing it. Let's keep holding tight, because we're not alone. We are not alone. There are many, many people who are of this same understanding, and they want to do what is right. So keep pushing on, and let's keep pushing on together. Thank you.
Dear parents, strive to become and help others to become. Good night and sleep well.
Good night. Bye.